it will trigger the curse of death to spread in the area. Its range and effects will increase as his number of minions increases, and this skill has a cooldown of 1 hour. Hanho and Ji Soo-yoon are amazed by Sungwoo's luck. Sungwoo uses his skill to return his minions to the void. This skill is quite useful, and now he can move around without making others afraid of his minions. Hanho and Ji Soo-yoon are not as lucky as Sungwoo. Ji Soo-yoon got B-rank survival package, and Hanho got a normal armor called Tough Bullhide Cuirass. Now we move to another location where Spearman Kyung-soo Lee is standing around many dead bodies. He is regretting his decision of parting ways with Sungwoo party outside college campus. They managed to arrive at the military base in the past, but it was already destroyed. Other survivors started panicking after watching the current situation of military base. All of their criticism was pointed towards Spearman Kyung-soo because he was the one who suggested the idea of going to the military base. One of Kyung-soo's friends tells him about the Hwasong Fortress, and Kyung-soo decides to head over there. But it was a bad decision, because what awaited them were monsters in human guise. One of the vampires kicks Spearman Kyung-soo and tells him he will take him to the kitchen and make him into food if he stops working. Spearman Kyung-soo is skeptical because he knows these vampires are going to get rid of him once they find some other replacement for him. Vampires are putting the human survivors in a building, but suddenly their path gets blocked by no one other than Righty. Righty challenges one of the vampires. Vampires think of Right as just a new weak type of monster, and they rush toward him. It was a trap, and the vampires started getting nailed by bone spears. One of the vampires is still confused about the current situation. Soon, Sungwoo minions jump out of the void. Spearman Kyung-soo becomes happy after watching Sungwoo, and Sungwoo is also happy after seeing him alive. Kyung-soo thinks Sungwoo has grown much stronger than the last time they parted ways. The vampires are still confident they can win. Sungwoo tells his minions to kill everyone and just leave one vampire alive so he can interrogate him. Spearman Kyung-soo thinks even Ji Soo-yoon has gotten stronger, but he is skeptical about Hanho's growth, who is hiding behind Righty. Last remaining vampire begs them to spare her life. Sungwoo asks the vampire about the exact number of players and vampires inside the factory, as well as details about their levels. They have a level 5 vampire manager inside. There are 12 players working with them, and the highest one is on level 4. Sungwoo thanks her for being honest, but he is still not going to spare her. She keeps begging for her dear life, but Spearman Kyung-soo stabs her from behind. After taking revenge for his friends, Kyung-soo starts crying, and he's missing his friends who were killed by the vampires. Sungwoo tells him that he did the right thing. The world has changed, but they cannot let scums like these vampires roam free. Inside the factory, some hunters tell the vampire manager that they have been capturing humans as they ordered, but they don't know how much longer they can keep this up. Vampire manager tells them that these humans are easy to capture, and they are their means of food and experience. Once the real plan of their leader comes to fruition, they are going to become the apex predators in this new world. The human players become happy because they will also be turned into a vampire if they keep it up. Sungwoo comes inside and tells them that they are all delusional creeps. Vampire manager asks him about his identity. The school survivors in the cages become happy after watching Sungwoo. Vampire manager becomes pissed and tells them to shut up. Vampire manager tries to be cocky, but Sungwoo is ready to pit him into his place using his skills. Soon, the vampires and players become engulfed by black smoke. Vampire manager and players are confused about the current situation, and they become inflicted by Curse of Death, which reduces their stats drastically. Sungwoo's minions start rushing towards the players. Vampire manager tells them to calm down, and they just need to get rid of Sungwoo and his skeletons will stop working. Vampire manager tries to go directly for Sungwoo, but Hanho throws a bottle filled with slime liquid to his face. Ji Soo-yoon rescued the survivors by cutting their cages with her sword. Spearman Kyung-soo comes inside riding his bus, and he tells the survivors to get inside. Vampire manager is pissed by the current situation, but Righty jumps on him and cuts off one of the arms of Vampire manager. The vampire leader was observing the fight through Vampire manager, and he lends some of his strength to him. Vampire manager turns into a high-level vampire and he activates Berserk skill. Hanho becomes afraid after witnessing the true form of Vampire manager. Vampire manager tries to rush at Sungwoo, but his minions surround him. Vampire manager destroys one orc skeleton with a single attack, but he also gets attacked from behind by a werewolf skeleton. Vampire manager punches the werewolf skeleton with all of his might, but he gets slashed from behind by another werewolf. Ji Soo-yoon jumps toward him, and she manages to slash the back of the vampire manager. Jisoo grabs Raidi and throws him in the direction of the vampire manager, and he manages to land a little slash attack on the vampire as well. 2 orc skeletons try to attack him from behind, but they get easily wrecked by the vampire. Sungwoo revives other dead monsters in their place, but he is worried because he thinks he's going to run out of corpses before vampire manager's berserk skill runs out. He's just a subordinate of Vampire Lord, but Sungwoo and his party members are having a difficult time dealing with him. Sungwoo gets a bit lucky because he notices a dead Cerberus corpse lying around. He resurrects the Cerberus and all of his werewolves receive a lot of buffs because of Cerberus skills. Werewolves manage to pin down the vampire manager. Sungwoo tells him to convey his message to their boss and that their business in Hwasong has gone bankrupt. Sungwoo receives 10,000 gold for killing a special player. Sungwoo tries to resurrect the vampire manager and he succeeds in his first try. A message pops up that Sungwoo can now revive the memory fragments of the deceased. Sungwoo gets a flashback from the memory fragment of vampire manager Kim. In the flashback, Vampire Lord asks the managers about the true purpose of this game, but the managers have no answer for it. Vampire Lord tells them that he also has no idea about the game's true purpose, but he is sure about something, that they need to evolve into a completely different species and make a new world order. Vampire Lord tells the managers that he got a new quest. He needs their help with the quest and he orders manager Kim to procure food and farming supplies. They are going to lure in survivors and perform a great feast. Sungwoo becomes pissed after hearing the plans of the Vampire Lord. Suddenly, he receives an exclusive quest called Master of Death. He needs to prevent or take advantage of a massacre. There are going to be many massacres in this world, but this one is specifically tied to Sungwoo's destiny. He can either save others or he can take advantages of the corpses. Hanho is trying to wake Sungwoo, but his consciousness is inside the memory fragment. Hanho thinks Sungwoo died because he revived the vampire and he starts crying. Sungwoo wakes up and tells Hanho that he will not die before him. He also tells them about everything he saw in the vampire manager's memory fragment. Vampire Lord is a bit frustrated because Sungwoo killed his vampire manager even after he lent some of his strength. Madame Yang asks him if Sungwoo can pose a threat to his plans, and Vampire Lord replies that Sungwoo can't kill him with his puny skeletons. Madame Yang starts blushing with fear after hearing it. Vampire Lord tells her that after the great feast is over, he will search Sungwoo using his curse and get rid of him. The next morning, Hanho informs Sungwoo that something big is happening on the online forums, and it seems like the vampires are trying to lure as many players as possible. The post has been made by a guy named Manager Gu, and it is written in the post that they are welcoming all survivors and no one even needs to pay gold to enter their camp, and they can also guarantee their safety. Hanho is about to post a comment against that post, but Sungwoo stops him. If people become alerted after reading the comment, then the vampires will be forced to alter their plans, and Sungwoo will lose his advantage because he is already aware of their current plans. Jisoo-yoon informs Sungwoo that she found a lot of useful potions in the vampire manager Kim's warehouse. Meanwhile, Hanho found a wireless charging battery item. They start charging their mobile batteries with it. Jisoo-yoon found a white-colored potion and it's called Treatment. This potion can apparently treat and alleviate various infections. Sungwoo thinks this potion will come in handy right away. Sungwoo used the potion on Taesung's friend and she became partially normal. Taesung and his delinquent friends are quite happy about it, and they thank Sungwoo from the bottom of their hearts. Sungwoo tells Taesung to keep an eye on their friend because if she causes trouble or gets possessed by the Vampire Lord, he will get rid of her. Sungwoo further tells him that he didn't heal her for free, and Taesung has to do something later for him. Sungwoo asks Hanho's dad, Mr. Lee, to use his skill. Mr. Lee gets ready to use his skill. After he uses his skill, a shield forms around their area, and this area can now heal all wounds as well. Mr. Lee has full authority within this area. Everyone starts feeling better because their wounds are healing. Hanho's mom prepared food for everyone, and this food can give different buffs to the consumers. It turns out no one other than Sungwoo had received any exclusive quests. Sungwoo tells Jisoo-yoon that she can stay behind if she wants, because this exclusive quest is not related to her. Jisoo tells Sungwoo that even if she stays behind, she will be killed by something worse than vampires. That's why she needs to improve her skills. While they are talking, a new notification pops up. It turns out all survivors are on Chapter 1 of this game. The admin congratulates all players who have survived till now. Many lives were lost in the process, and those who couldn't adapt to this new world were turned into werebeasts. However, their trials and tribulations are just beginning. They need to fight back against monsters and humans alike. Only those who are bold enough will be able to survive. There are 4 further warnings in the message. This event is going to run for 7 days. and during this time, they are unable to leave this region of Suwon and Hwasong Fortress. The amount of gold that players will be awarded will be doubled during this event. Every time a second round player is able to defeat a werebeast, they will be given a chance to receive a combo card at random. A boss monster will spawn in every region, and players can get powerful items after defeating the boss. Sohan is quite pleased after hearing the conditions of this quest. Hanho is mad because Sungwoo is forcing him to tag along on his dangerous quest. Sungwoo tells him that he's weak and he will not even survive a single day without him. Hanho changes the topic and tells Sungwoo that people are responding to his post on the community forum. Sungwoo received all sorts of comments, but one comment is more captivating, and it is done by prosecutor of Yeongdong-po, the same guy who made a base with a level 3 pioneer skill. It seems like they made their own guild called Independence. Their guild's top priority is the survival of their group. They are making their safe zone stronger by hunting monsters and rescuing survivors. Sungwoo thinks this prosecutor guy is too ambitious. Sungwoo asks Hanho about his level, and Hanho replies that he's on level 5. Sungwoo thinks Hanho is too weak and he needs to grind levels as well. Spearman Kyung-soo stops the car and tells them that they have arrived at their destination. Sungwoo's party steps out of the car and Sungwoo tells them that this is their new hunting ground, while a lot of monsters are hiding behind cars and various blockage. These monsters are called kobolds and they can use magic as well. They are not that much of a threat and they get easily wiped out. The main purpose of this hunt is to help Hanho level up and to find new minions for Sungwoo. A single werewolf is capable of defeating 3 or 4 low-level vampires, even though these kobolds can use magic, but they are not strong enough to be used as minions. There are a lot of dead bodies outside the parking lot, which is looking a bit similar to the college campus. Sungwoo thinks that same tutorial must have taken place in all densely populated areas. Spearman Kyung-soo tells them that he thinks countryside places and small mountain villages like Jeju Island can be safer because they have low population. Ji Soo-yoon's family lives on Jeju Island and she tells them not to worry because her family members are big shots, so they must be fine. Sungwoo and his party enters the mart, but their exit gets sealed with magic, and this mart has now become a large-scale dungeon called the Sorcerer's Fortress. They can now only escape by defeating the boss of this dungeon. Suddenly, a huge magic circle forms beneath them, and they all get teleported to different locations inside the dungeon. Hanho falls down from a circle on the ceiling. There are a bunch of kobolds and they are telling each other that a single human has fallen into their trap. Hanho is amazed after hearing them talk. Hanho tells them that he may be alone, but he can wipe those puny kobolds by himself. But when Hanho realizes he is really alone, he becomes afraid. All kobolds rush towards Hanho, but he is too scared to fight back, but he manages to kill one kobold by accident, and the other kobold starts beating him. He is crying because he was forced to come here by Sungwoo, and now he's going to die, but soon he realizes that he cannot feel any pain. Hanho remembers that one of his priest class skill protects him for 10 seconds after killing an enemy. The kobolds become afraid as Hanho starts laughing. Hanho starts feeling like a character from Fist of the North Star, and he tells those puny kobolds that he hates weaklings like them. Spearman Kyung-soo and Jisoo are both together and they're trying to find their party members as fast as they can. Soon, they see blood coming out of a corner. Once they come close, they realize that it was Hanho who just finished a bunch of kobolds. Ji Soo-yoon still can't believe what she saw, and Hanho tells her that he has finally awakened his hidden potential. All 3 of them are now together, and they don't think they need to worry about Sungwoo, because he's more powerful than all of them. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sungwoo and his minions are massacring the kobolds. Sungwoo finally reaches a place with a lot of kobold dead bodies, and a survivor is lying there. His wounds are too severe to be healed by mere potions. The survivor points toward a box. Sungwoo picks it up for him. There's a mysterious egg inside, and it's an exclusive item which can be hatched. With his last breath, the survivor tells Sungwoo that the boss of this dungeon has the owner token for this egg. This egg originally belonged to the survivor, and its token was stolen by the boss monster somehow. Sungwoo knows that the survivor was a 5-star dragon knight, and this mysterious egg has a real dragon inside of it. More kobolds appear, but they get slaughtered by Sungwoo's minions. Now Sungwoo is determined to find that token and take revenge for the survivor. Sungwoo notices that something is strange about these kobolds. They just keep charging at him without thinking, as if they were buying time for something. Soon, Sungwoo spots a kobold sorcerer. One of his minions easily kills him, and the other kobolds also die without much resistance. Sungwoo levels up, and this time he chooses a skill card. He receives a new basic skill called Corpse Explosion. This skill requires 10 mana to explode a corpse. More kobolds start charging at him, and Sungwoo tests out his new skill, which causes a big explosion. 4 kobolds are hiding inside a room. Righty comes in and easily takes care of them. Sungwoo praises Righty for it, and Righty becomes happy. Further inside the room, they spot the boss, which is a high-level kobold sorcerer. There is a force field around him, and it cannot be broken until 3 cores are smashed, which are spread around the dungeon. Boss Monster is angry after witnessing the massacre of his underlings. He uses a low-level instant death spell. If this spell isn't stopped within an hour, any player in the dungeon with a level lower than 10 will die right away. Sungwoo becomes afraid because everyone in his team is below level 10. His minions keep attacking, but they can't do anything to the force field. Sungwoo thinks normal attacks are not going to work, so he orders his minions to gather all dead bodies near the boss. Sungwoo leaves the room and he detonates all kobold dead bodies, which results in a big explosion. But once Sungwoo comes back, there's not even a single scratch on the boss. The boss becomes enraged and sacrifices some of his health to reduce the spellcasting time. And now there are only 52 minutes left. Sungwoo becomes really pissed and the boss starts smirking. Sungwoo received memory fragments after reviving some kobold sorcerers, and now he knows the exact location of the cores. First core is located on their floor and Righty destroys it, but there are only 19 minutes left. They move up to the next floor and there are a lot of dead kobolds in there. Sungwoo thinks Jisoo must have killed them. When he gets closer to the second core's location, he witnesses Hanho destroying the kobolds. Both Sungwoo and Righty can't believe what they just witnessed. Jisoo tells Sungwoo that they also received that spell notification and she destroyed the core located on their floor. Hanho tells them that they are wasting time and they should head toward the last core. Sungwoo and his party is wreaking havoc as they are heading towards the last core. Finally, they spot the last core, but kobolds are desperately trying to protect it with their lives. Sungwoo gives Righty a hand, and Righty jumps above the kobolds and manages to cut the last core into 2 pieces. The force field around the boss has been dispelled, and now they only need to kill the boss within 9 minutes. Sungwoo is quite pissed at the boss, and he's going to wreck him. Hanho also transfers back to his normal state. There are only 2 minutes left, but Sungwoo and his party arrives on time. One of the kobold sorcerers of Sungwoo uses Fireball on the boss, and he gets knocked over, which results in cancellation of the instant death spell. The boss becomes pissed, and he starts transforming into his true form, which is a fallen tree spirit. After transforming, it starts smashing Sungwoo's minions with ease. It tries to attack Sungwoo and his friends, but they manage to dodge it in time. Jisoo uses a fire sword attack to burn one of its branches, but it starts regenerating right away. Sungwoo orders one of his werewolf minions to throw dead kobolds at the boss. When the dead bodies come closer to the boss, Sungwoo detonates them, which results in a big explosion. The explosion damaged the face of the boss, but it is regenerating at a faster pace. The boss gets hit from behind by Kobold Sorcerer Fireball, which is quite effective against him. Sungwoo's party starts attacking boss with fire attacks, and soon he runs out of mana because of Sungwoo's legendary item, the Devil Bloodstorm Orb, which leeches the enemy's mana by 2% after every attack. The boss became weaker after losing his mana. Sungwoo and his party retreats, and Sungwoo detonates all the dead bodies of the kobolds, which were piled upon each other by his minions just below the boss. The boss dies because he had no mana left to regenerate himself. Sungwoo received 12,840 gold for defeating the fallen tree spirit, and he also leveled up to 10. Sungwoo also receives another roulette ticket from the system because he's the 69th person to reach level 10, and his rank has increased to infinite level. Sungwoo's maximum number of minions has also increased by 5. Sungwoo chooses a skill card and he gets a death response skill which consumes 100 mana, and it summons 10 zombies which disappear after 10 minutes, and these zombies are not included in his total number of minions. Sungwoo can now command 25 undead at the same time, which will be a huge advantage against the Vampire Lord. Sungwoo received the Dragon Token, which is a masterless sword, and he is now confident enough to face the Vampire Lord head on. This new masterless sword increases its user's strength by 6, and it is required to open the Dragon Egg, but Sungwoo can't open the egg because his class is not synchronized with the Dragon Tamer class. He can still hatch the Dragon Egg if he can keep it closer to him for 5,000 days, or if he can slay powerful foes with the masterless sword to reduce the maximum number of days. Hanho tells him that 5,000 days are equal to 13 years, and he will be a middle-aged man by the time the egg hatches. But he can slay powerful foes with the sword, which will decrease the egg hatching time. Sungwoo receives a message from Taesung, who was sent to Haegung Square Inn to spy on the vampires. He tells Sungwoo that there are hundreds of people present there, but there are no signs of vampires yet. He also informs Sung-woo that private messages like this cost 300 gold. Sung-woo thinks Taesung is doing a good job by sneaking in with the survivors. Meanwhile, Orc Skeleton spots something. When Sung-woo arrives, there are 2 werewolf corpses which seem to have been killed by the tree spirit. Sung-woo revives them, and now he has 5 werewolves under his authority. Sung-woo has a total of 15 minions, and he thinks right now is the best time to head towards Hwasong to finish off the vampires. The survivors are in a confused state because the guys who invited them there are not in sight. At the same time, the vampires are watching the survivors from a nearby building. Second-in-command Vampire Master comes around and tells them to get ready because they're going after the guy who attacked their factory. Vampire Lord wants the guy dead before he can interfere with their grand feast. Taesung spots them heading outside and he informs Sung-woo about them. According to the Vampire Lord's curse skill, they were at the elementary school. After reaching the spot, they spot a werewolf dead body lying on a car. They think this werewolf was killed by Sung-woo's minions because his wounds are still fresh. There is a trail of blood nearby and it leads to the auditorium nearby. All of them start rushing inside the auditorium. The vampire leading these low-ranked vampires is a vampire master, and he can handle 2 werewolves at the same time, and he works directly under the Vampire Lord. Some vampires rush inside and they spot Sung-woo with his minions. Vampire are quite confident they can easily take him down. Sung-woo and his minions start running away from the vampires. Sung-woo stops after leading them to a dead end. Vampires become a bit afraid because they feel something is wrong. Sung-woo summons his remaining minions from the void. He also uses death response to summon zombies, and vampires become afraid. Zombie starts massacring the vampires. Righty uses his command skill on the skeleton minions, which gives them a small buff. Most of the vampires have lost hope because of Curse of Death. Sung-woo is quite pleased with his formation and strategy. A female vampire tries to go directly for Sung-woo, but she gets hit by fireballs of kobold sorcerers. Righty finishes her off by cutting her into 2 pieces, and Sung-woo receives 2,000 gold for killing her. Vampire Master is the last remaining vampire, but he is quite strong. Normal skeletons and zombies are getting easily wrecked by him. 2 zombies manage to bite him, but he easily gets rid of one of them. Vampire Master tries to go directly for Sung-woo, but while he is in the air, Sung-woo explodes the remaining zombie, which deals a huge amount of damage to the Vampire Master. He falls to the ground and werewolves start munching on him. Sung-woo kills the Vampire Master with the nameless sword. He receives 20,000 gold for killing a special player, and the egg hatching days are reduced to 4,949 days. Sung-woo revives all of the dead vampires with complete limbs. Sung-woo also received another synergy because he has more than 5 vampire skeletons in his party. This synergy adds 5% bleed damage to all of their attacks, and they activate the Berserk mode after dying, which boosts all of their stats by 10%. Sung-woo is now sure that he has the best deck possible in this level. Jisoo and Hanho have also sneaked in with the survivors. Jisoo sent a private message to Sung-woo because the vampires have just started acting more suspicious. They are asking people to hand over their weapons as a requirement to enter the safety zone. Sung-woo is sure that Vampire Lord must have sensed the deaths of his underlings. That's why he's speeding things up. Meanwhile, in the survivors' camp, an old player spots some werewolves which are piked on the rooftop. The survivors become amazed after watching it because these werewolves are powerful enough to tear apart normal wolves with ease. Jisoo and Hanho's turn comes up for handing over their weapons. Jisoo thinks these players who are working for the vampires are pathetic. Meanwhile, Taesung comes from behind. He tells Jisoo Yun that he hid her twin swords in the spot she told him about. It was quite easy for them because their gang member Yong Shik is a 2-star thief. They also got the stuff Hanho requested. After going through the weapon screening process, they are moved with other players. Soon, the Vampire Lord comes out with his lesser vampires. They are all wearing masks, and the Vampire Lord seems mad because of Sung-woo. Hanho and Jisoo Yun both know that the one leading this group is the true Vampire Lord, and now they just need to wait for Sung-woo to arrive. The vampires surround the survivors, and the Vampire Lord start addressing them. He tells them that humanity has stopped evolving, and this disaster has happened because of the shortcomings of humans. He goes on to say that they will be killed here, so that the next stage of evolution can happen. All of the vampires remove their masks, and Vampire Lord tells them that the vampires are the only chosen one who are destined to ascend to the next stage of evolution. Survivors become scared, and the vampires start massacring them. The survivors can't escape because there are electric fences around them. Spearman Kyung-soo comes driving in and he crashes the school bus into the electric fences. Jisoo and Han-ho come out with their weapons and they start guiding the players to safety. Vampire Lord becomes more enraged, but Sung-woo steps out of the bus and tells him that he is here to crash the Mosquito King's party. Vampire Lord welcomes Sung-woo to the party, and Madame Yang heads out with the human collaborators to round up the escaping survivors. Vampire Lord tells him that the survivors will be dead by the time he deals with him, but Sung-woo is sure that his party members can take care of them on their own. A werewolf jumps on the Vampire Lord and he easily smashes the head of the werewolf, but it was a trap, and there are goblin dead bodies filled inside the werewolf. Sung-woo detonates the goblin corpses, which results in a huge explosion. The vampires become more agitated because their leader has been hit with a deadly attack. Sung-woo runs back inside the bus and the vampires start following him. There are a lot of dead monster corpses inside the bus, and Sung-woo seems to have escaped through a hole in the bus. Sung-woo explodes the bus, which results in the death of a huge number of vampires. Vampire Lord Han starts emitting red energy, which means he is somehow regaining his strength. Meanwhile, Madame Yang is chasing down the survivors along with the player collaborators, but suddenly the player collaborators start dying one after another. Madame Yang feels an ominous presence behind her, and she manages to dodge a deadly surprise attack from Jisoo-yeon. Both girls are pumped up and they get ready to go toe-to-toe against each other. Han-ho and Taesong manage to escort the survivors to a safe location, but a vampire appears who was stationed there by the Vampire Lord himself. Han-ho tries to stop Taesong, but he starts attacking the vampire because he thinks this vampire looks weaker than others. The vampire manages to dodge all of his attacks, and he's about to bite the neck of Taesong, but he gets interrupted by Han-ho's daggers. The vampire jumps up in the air while dodging the punch of Taesong. Han-ho throws some daggers which successfully hit his face, and he falls down to the ground. The vampire is not dead yet, and he is pissed because they damaged his beautiful face. On the other side, Sung-woo has taken care of the low-level vampires with that explosion, but he knows that his real adversary is still alive. The Vampire Lord jumps on the bus, and he seems to have changed his form after drinking the blood of his own lesser vampire. Sung-woo summons his minions from the void, and the Vampire Lord starts rushing toward him. The Vampire Lord jumps in the middle of the orc skeleton formation, and he starts crushing them to pieces. Sung-woo realizes that these orc skeletons can't stop the Vampire Lord for much longer. Sung-woo activates Death Response, and zombies come out of the ground. Vampire Lord easily gets rid of them, and Sung-woo detonates the zombies, but this time Vampire Lord blocks the explosion with his blood field skill. Sung-woo changes his strategy, and he sends the werewolves for the Cerebrus synergy. This synergy effect increases their strength against a single enemy. Vampire Lord is quite confident, and he takes care of 3 werewolves in just a single slash attack. Vampire Lord tells Sung-woo that he is losing badly because he belongs to an unevolved species. He further elaborates that the strong ones are destined to rule over weak. The Vampire Lord was a serial killer even before the class selection happened. After selecting the vampire class, he knew for sure that the guy who turned this world into a game wanted him to evolve into an apex being, and he's going to lead the world to its next evolution. Sung-woo tells him these things are not even gonna matter because Vampire Lord is destined to die today. Soon, Vampire Lord gets a telepathy message from Madame Yang, and she needs his help. Madame Yang has suffered several injuries at the hands of Jisoo-yeon. Madame Yang is pissed because she couldn't land even a single hit on Jisoo. Jisoo-yeon got a lot of practical experience by hunting herself, while Madame Yang just bit-chained players to get stronger. That's why she's badly losing to her. Jisoo-yeon manages to land a critical double slash attack on Madame Yang. Madame Yang falls to the ground and Jisoo-yeon finishes her off. Meanwhile, on the other side, Han-ho and Taesong are not doing well. The vampire gives them a once-in-a-life opportunity to become a vampire like him. He tells them this new world is unfair, and they can increase their survival chances by becoming a parasite and sticking to someone stronger like the Vampire Lord. Han-ho says he is right, and sticking to someone stronger is the best strategy in this world filled with monsters. That's why he's sticking with Sung-woo. A rider comes from behind the vampire and he gets distracted. Han-ho throws a dagger while the vampire's attention is on the motorbike. The vampire manages to dodge the dagger and it goes directly into the chest of the rider, but he is saved because he had a goblin sitting in the front. It was all part of Han-ho's plan, and he was aiming for the goblin in the first place. Han-ho grows bigger because of his skill, which makes him invincible for some time after each kill. The vampire attacks him with all of his force, but his attack had no effect on Han-ho, who is currently invincible. Han-ho stabs him again and again with his high-speed slash skill. Taesong and a spearman also attack him at the same time. Vampire tries to go for Taesong, but Hanho blocks his attack. Vampire becomes pissed and he keeps attacking him. Spearman and Taesong go for another attack, and they manage to inflict serious damage on the vampire, while Hanho is working as their shield. Hanho starts losing power and the vampire notices it. Someone throws a goblin and Hanho kills it with his knife. It turns out one of Taesong's gang members is tasked at throwing goblins at Hanho whenever his skill runs out. Hanho tells the vampire that he can power up as many times as he wants because he has a lot of fresh goblins in stock. All players gang up on the vampire and they manage to defeat him. The Vampire Lord was observing their fights and he gets even more pissed at his elite vampires. Someone tells him that his elite vampires lost to humans and it is his turn next because he already knows about all of his weaknesses. Someone tells him that his first weakness is that he can't use any weapon. Vampires' second weakness is their low defense level and their high regeneration ability. Their third weakness is that they have no mana and they need blood for all of their abilities. All this time, Sungwoo was using Devil's Bloodstone item which was leeching off his health by 2% with each successful hit. Vampire Lord starts feeling weaker. Sungwoo tells him that his fourth weakness is that he talks too much, and instead of focusing on his minions, he should have gone straight for Sungwoo. Vampire Lord activates Blood Field around him and he starts heading directly towards Sungwoo. Righty blocks his way and he tries to attack Righty, but he uses his parry skill to divert the attack of the Vampire Lord. Righty throws a bottle filled with slime liquid directly to his face. Vampire Lord's face starts melting and his vision is getting blurry as well. He has used too much blood and now he has not enough regeneration power to heal his eyes. Sungwoo orders his minions to finish off the Vampire Lord. He can hear their footsteps, but it is still dangerous for him and he could easily die. He starts wrecking low-ranked orc skeletons rushing at him, but he needs blood to regain his power. Soon he smells blood somewhere and he starts heading over there. He is going after the blood of werewolves. They hung at the building for survivors to watch when they entered. Vampire Lord reaches the rooftop, but a werewolf minion stabs him from above. Sungwoo tells him that he's an idiot, and Sungwoo was getting his werewolf minion supply from that building in the first place. Vampire Lord receives massive damage as he hits the ground. Sungwoo is gonna finish this party with fireworks, so one of his minions throws the Vampire Lord in a room filled with monster corpses. Sungwoo detonates the building, and the Vampire Lord finally dies with that explosion. Sungwoo receives 10,000 gold for killing a special player, but he also completed No Country for Wicked Men special quest, so the system awards him with 30,000 gold and a C rank item ticket. His destiny has been altered as well because he completed an exclusive quest and he will receive an exclusive skill in return. His party arrives and Sungwoo is glad to see them alive, and they start celebrating their victory. The next morning, everyone is quite happy to see their saviors. There are also some people in the mix who were saved before by Sungwoo's party, but soon the survivors become confused with the arrival of a whole regiment of soldiers. Sergeant Kim is leading them and he was spectating their fight from a distance. Sungwoo is wondering what they are doing here. Sergeant Kim tells him they were monitoring the group which was claiming that they have made safe zones, but they never imagined something this disastrous could happen. Sungwoo is glad that they didn't try to fight the vampires because they look much weaker. Sergeant Kim informs him that the Korean army is alive and well, and there is someone who wants to meet him. The army returns to their base without Sungwoo and their leader seems to be pissed about it. During nighttime, Sungwoo opens up his status window. He received 150,000 gold alone from his last battle against the Vampire Lord. He got a new skill called Create Bone Armor, and now he can make armor using the bones of corpses. Sungwoo uses his skill to make a bone armor for himself. It automatically becomes equipped on Sungwoo's body and it is also quite comfortable. He can equip his minions with this armor as well, which will greatly boost their defense. Finally, he received a heroic rank Drawn repeating crossbow, which can be fired without reloading. This is a perfect weapon for Sungwoo because he stays behind most of the times while his minions do the fighting. Sungwoo is feeling quite confident about his current state, but suddenly he sees a house engulfed in flames. His mom and dad are burning inside and they are calling for his help. Sungwoo tries to help them, but he realizes that he is in the body of a kid. Kid Sungwoo becomes afraid and he starts running away from his burning parents. He wakes up from his dream and Hanho informs him that Sergeant Kim is here to see him with some soldiers. Sungwoo starts preparing to meet them, but he is still afraid after watching that dream. A bold officer rushes inside while Hanho tries to stop him. He introduces himself as Lieutenant Major Taeyeon Park of the Army's S1 Division and Sergeant Kim is also accompanying him. Lieutenant Park gets straight to the point and he tells Sung-woo that he wants him to collaborate with them in their future missions. Sung-woo inquires about which type of collaboration they want, and Lieutenant Park tells him they want him to join the army. Sung-woo and Righty become a bit disappointed after hearing it, and he asks Lieutenant Park why he wants him to join. Lieutenant Park tells him that they want him to help them in reclaiming a territory. He further informs him that the prosecutor of Yeongdong-po denies the government authority and he created a renegade group. Plus, he created the first guild in Korea and he formed a safety zone to re-establish order. He also defeated a boss monster in their area. Lieutenant Park becomes enraged as he thinks the entire nation should be rallying behind the army. But Sung-woo disagrees with him because government was completely ineffective when the survivors needed their help. Lieutenant Park is about to burst with anger and Sung-woo tells him he can work as a mercenary for them. He further tells him that government does not mean anything in this new world. Lieutenant Park grabs his collar, but Sung-woo pushes him away and starts leaving. Lieutenant Park tells him that he will not survive long enough without the support of the army, but Sung-woo is ready to take his chances in this new world. The survivors are feeling safer with the soldiers around. Ji Soo-yeon tells Han-ho that people tend to rely on stable organizations, such as military, but the expressions of these soldiers are not looking well. Han-ho has watched many army-related movies, so he is quite impressed by them. He asks one of the soldiers about the Private Kwan, whom they met back with Sergeant Kim. The soldier tells him that it's a classified information, so he can't share it with him. Both Ji Soo-yeon and Han-ho realize that these soldiers are acting weird, and some information about a private soldier can never be considered classified. Meanwhile, Sung-woo wanted to cooperate with the army, but he can't bear that arrogant Lieutenant Park. Sergeant Kim approaches Sung-woo and he's feeling bad for the Lieutenant Park's aggressive behavior. In truth, the army is in a real pickle and they need his help. Sergeant Kim tells him he wants to show him some top secret thing. Both of them head toward a parking lot of a building. There are a few soldiers stationed around there. They make their way around them and reach a room. Sergeant Kim shows a prophecy stone to Sung-woo. These prophecy stones are scattered around the world, and whoever touches them can see a vision of the future, but not everyone sees the exact same thing. He further tells him that this game is totally unbalanced because those people who have access to these prophecy stones have an advantage. Sung-woo is a bit hesitant, but he touches the Season 2 prophecy stone. It shows him a glimpse of the future where everyone, including him and his party, had been turned into undead creatures by a being known as Lich King. Lich King looks at Sung-woo and he starts burning. With that, the dream is over, but Sung-woo is still getting goosebumps from what he just witnessed. The prophecy stone gives an announcement that Season 2 will start on 1st January. It turns out Sergeant Kim also had seen something similar when he used the prophecy stone in the past. Sung-woo receives another objective-based exclusive quest called Who is the Master of Death? He needs to seize the Grim Reaper's scythe, and as a reward, he will receive Wave of Death skill, which he just witnessed after touching Prophecy Stone. The location of the Grim Reaper's scythe will be revealed to him when he reaches level 15. The choices he makes during this quest will affect his destiny. Sung-woo is worried because Season 2 will start in just 2 months, and if he fails, everything will just turn out like what he saw in the Prophecy Stone. Sung-woo inquires about the location of the boss of this area from Sergeant Kim. It turns out boss monsters have started appearing after the start of Season 1, but Sung-woo was dealing with the vampires at that time. Sergeant Kim has information about one boss monster, and it is the same boss monster that Lieutenant Park wanted Sung-woo to kill. Sung-woo tells Sergeant Kim to inform Lieutenant Park that he was able to convince Sung-woo to help them get rid of the boss, but Sung-woo also wants gold for his service. The next day, Sergeant Kim informs Lieutenant Park that Sung-woo is ready to help them, but he wants 100,000 gold for his service. Lieutenant Park becomes angry after hearing it. Company Commander informs Lieutenant Park that there is no one on the same power level as Sung-woo, and he also witnessed his power when he defeated the Vampire Lord. Lieutenant Park tells them that they still have First Class Sergeant Kang, who is quite powerful. Company Commander informs him that First Class Sergeant Kang is powerful, but the players under Army Command are not that much useful, while Sung-woo has an army of skeletons, which can sacrifice their life for him at any given moment. Sung-woo can easily wipe out a whole battalion with just his low-ranked skeletons. The army brings in around 60,000 gold per day by defeating monsters, and they can hire Sung-woo with their 2 days of gold earnings. The boss monster has taken control of Airstrip, which is a strategic point for the military. The army had previously sent dozens of players, but only First Sergeant Kang returned alive from there. Traveling by air is the safest means of transportation if they can avoid the wyverns. Plus, Lieutenant Park will be promoted if they take back control of the airstrip. Lieutenant Park is still angry, but he agrees to hire Sung-woo. The company commander pays Sung-woo, and he tells Sung-woo that he needs to defeat the monster within 3 days. Sergeant Kang will be accompanying them on this mission, and he is the only survivor who returned alive from the failed boss hunt. Sergeant Kang is a bit disappointed because he will be working as an assistant of Sung-woo. Sergeant Kang asks about the level of Sung-woo, and he informs him that he is on level 10. Sergeant Kang and the army players become shocked. They have been killing orcs non-stop, but they still haven't reached level 10. Sung-woo tells them that he needs to kill stronger monsters than just mere orcs. Sergeant Kang angrily tells him that the boss is on a whole different level. Meanwhile, the number of survivors in Sung-woo's camp has also increased. Spearman Kyung-soo suggests that they should build a town with the help of these survivors. Those people with support skills will help build the town, while the players with fighter classes will be responsible for hunting and defending the town. Their goal is to increase their gold and military strength. Han-ho's parents praise Kyung-soo for his idea, but he tells them that it was the idea of Sung-woo in the first place. Kyung-soo thinks he is not a reliable person because all of his friends died at the hands of the vampires due to his rash decisions. Han-ho's father tries to motivate him and tells him that he has all the qualities of a true leader. Meanwhile, Sung-woo and his party is wreaking havoc on the streets. Not even a single mob can stand their ground against them. Even low-ranked monsters are now afraid of them. Sung-woo's party heads inside a building and they find a smith shop in there. The smith shop gives option to Sung-woo to combine 3 of his legendary rank item into 1 at the price of 100,000 gold. Sung-woo starts preparing his 3 items for the combination, but there's a 2% chance of losing his items, so Jisoo starts praying for Sung-woo. Sung-woo proceeds with the combination and the 3 items start merging. Sung-woo gets a legendary rank item called Chaos Crystal. It grants Chaos attribute to its user and boosts mana by 500 and mana regen by 250. It can also steal mana and health by 3% during simultaneous attacks. Both Han-ho and Ji Soo-yeon congratulate Sung-woo for his new item. Ji Soo-yeon checks Smithy, and it turns out she can also combine her Fire Whetstone with Incendiary Blade, and this combination requires 15,000 gold. She combines her items and receives an Ignition Blade which causes burns whenever she strikes an enemy. Han-ho becomes angry at the system because there is nothing available for him to combine. They head back to the store in a car complex to buy more items, but the store has already been destroyed by someone else. There's a message written on the wall which says that all pathetic humans are going to die because the age of a new species is coming. They realize that this message was written with monster claws. Sung-woo thinks that maybe it was done by a new kind of intelligent monster. With that said, they start heading back to the town. On their way, they meet Sergeant Kim, who is performing a group quest with other soldiers. If they complete a group quest, their commander receives a completion reward and the soldiers' defense and attack power increases by 10% for the next day. But Sergeant Kim is wondering that they have been killing orcs and goblins for a very long time, but they keep appearing like they are respawning from somewhere. Sergeant Kim hopes that it must not be the case or their sufferings will never end. The low-rank soldiers are just being used as slaves by the army to mine gold, and they don't even let the soldiers use the online forum. Sung-woo is thinking that army is still using same old rules. That's why the Prosecutor Guild has a better chance of growing in this new world. Sung-woo tells the soldiers to rest at their own town because it is close by. Meanwhile, the town is getting invaded by werebears, and the survivors can't seem to hold their ground against them. In the end, Spearman Kyung-soo becomes scared after facing the werebear. The bear does a swing attack, but Kyung-soo jumps over the bear. He slashes both of the eyes of the bear with one swing attack. Kyung-soo is happy because he bided some time for others, but another bear manages to catch him. Kyung-soo is about to be crushed to death, but Righty chops off the arm of the bear. Ji Soo-yeon finishes off the bear with a single stab attack. Another bear is about to attack her from behind, but Han-ho blocks his attack with his invincible skill. Sung-woo arrives there, and he's quite happy because these powerful bears are about to become a part of his army. The soldiers become amazed after witnessing Sung-woo's power from their very own eyes. Sung-woo received the bears, and he received a Wild Tyrant synergy for having more than 4 bears in his party. This synergy decreases enemy defense by 10%, and it increases all allies' defense by 10%. Sung-woo tells Sergeant Kim to inform his commander that he is ready to fight the boss and reclaim the airstrip. The next morning, the survivors from the last werebear attack are getting healed. Han-ho and Ji Soo-yeon congratulate Spearman Kyung-soo for holding down the werebears on his own. Sung-woo and Righty praise him as well. Sergeant Kang arrives there and he mocks the condition of Sung-woo's town, and Sung-woo is not happy with his attitude. Sung-woo tells them that they are in a rough condition because they were attacked by werebears last night. Sergeant Kang tells him he knows those bears are very tough opponents because he defeated one of them in the past. Sergeant Kim informed Sung-woo before that Sergeant Kang has a 3-star striker class. He uses martial arts instead of weapons, but no one knows about what he chose during the 2nd class selection. Sergeant Kim informs 1st class Sergeant Kang that Sung-woo is ready and they can leave right away. Sergeant Kang becomes more pissed. He angrily grabs Sergeant Kim and tells him that he should shut up because he is not bringing in the required gold from daily quests. Sung-woo thinks these low-ranked soldiers are nothing more than slaves for the army. Sergeant Kim bursts out in anger and he tells Sergeant Kang that a lot of his companions died because of him. Sergeant Kang strangles him and tells him to just shut up and keep bringing in gold like he's supposed to. He further tells him that his troops died because of the incompetence of Sergeant Kim and he should not have chosen a useless class like a warsmith. Sung-woo tells him that he wants to leave right away and he don't have time for Sergeant Kang's circus. Sergeant Kang angrily leaves with his troops. Sergeant Kim also leaves with his troops because they need to prepare for the boss raid. Sung-woo and his party members feel sorry for Sergeant Kim, but there is nothing they can do to help him. Sung-woo and the military guys arrive at the airstrip, but the airstrip is in a very bad condition right now. Sergeant Kang is a jealous person and he hasn't told Sung-woo any useful information about the boss, but Sergeant Kim already informed Sung-woo about it. Finally, the boss monster Giant Troll appears at the airstrip, but it is much bigger than what Sung-woo expected. Troll finally spots Sung-woo party and he starts running toward them, but Sung-woo uses death response on him and his zombies take a hold of his legs. Troll easily gets rid of all of them in a single slam attack. The whole ground starts shaking because of his attack. Sung-woo detonates the zombie and the explosion engulfs the troll. After the smoke subsides, the troll seems to have suffered a minor injury, which is getting healed with his regeneration ability. This boss monster has no special abilities like the boss monster Sung-woo faced in the past, but his strength alone is enough to make up for it. Boss gives a loud roar. Hanso and Ji Se-yoon get prepared because it's their turn to fight the boss. Meanwhile, on the other side, Company Commander informs Lieutenant Kang that the prosecutor of Yeongdong-po is gaining more influence by absorbing the small groups of survivors. Company Commander asks Lieutenant Park for his permission to write a post on the public forum to make the public calm, but Lieutenant Park stops him because the higher-ups think trusting this system too much will be dangerous for the army. Company Commander is a bit skeptical about the higher-ups' decision because the game's influence in the real world is now too big, and they should play by its rules. Lieutenant Park is a pathetic person and he orders his troops to kill Sung-woo after the boss monster gets defeated. First Sergeant Kang is accompanying Sung-woo and he will perform the execution right after the troll gets defeated. Lieutenant Park orders Company Commander to head over there and steal all gold and valuable items from Sung-woo before killing him. Company Commander is not happy with the decision of Lieutenant Park, but he has no other choice but to follow the orders of his superiors. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Han-ho is soaking up all of the damage from the boss with his invincible skill. Han-ho is a bit disappointed in the boss because his attacks are not even tickling him a bit. Boss is a bit tired after all of his attacks, and Ji Se-yoon jumps on him from behind. She manages to stab the back of the boss. She jumps away from the boss after leaving her sword stuck in him. There is an invincible rope attached to her sword. Han-ho starts circling around the boss with the rope. First Sergeant Kang is amazed because he thought Sung-woo's friends were just useless idiots, and they were using him to gain levels. They are both able to easily face the boss without suffering any major injuries. Han-ho's invincible ability is about to go on cooldown, but Sergeant Kim has got a fresh supply of goblins for him. Han-ho kills the goblins by throwing a knife, and his force field reactivates. Finally, Han-ho is able to tie down the boss with the invincible rope. The boss monster falls to the ground, and now it's Sung-woo's turn to face the boss head-on. One of Sung-woo's minions gives him Dragon Knight's masterless sword, and he starts charging toward the boss with his minions. All of them start bashing and piercing the boss. One of the orc skeletons punches the boss from behind. The boss monster eats the orc skeleton, but there were many dead bodies inside the skeleton's bag, and Sung-woo detonates them, which results in a big explosion inside his mouth. Sung-woo walks up to the boss and he stabs the head of the boss with masterless sword, which results in his death. He receives 220,000 gold for defeating the boss, and his level has risen up to 11. All of his stats have increased by 2, and he received a special item chest. Killing the boss monster with masterless sword decreased egg hatching time by 98 days, and now there are 4,850 days left until the egg hatches. Sung-woo chose Create Bone Weapons card as his level up skill, and now he can make more variety of weapons with the bones. First Sergeant Kang is amazed by Sung-woo's feat, but now he needs to get rid of him. Sergeant Kang is a bit hesitant, but Sung-woo tells him that he's a bit late for the surprise attack, meaning he knew everything from the start. Sergeant Kang attacks him with his magnum blow skill, which results in a big explosion, but Sung-woo used a new shield bone to block his attack. Their surprise attack failed, so Sergeant Kang orders his soldiers to attack Sung-woo's minions while he takes care of them. He starts charging straight towards Sung-woo. He blows Sung-woo's bone shield with a single magnum punch. Sung-woo tries to attack him with the masterless sword, but Sergeant Kang kicks it out of his hand. He becomes more cocky, but Sung-woo slashes his face a bit with a bone dagger he just created from his bone armor. Sergeant Kang is still confident that he can win, but he realizes that he is surrounded by all the dead skeletons that he just mashed. Sung-woo creates spears with those bones that pierces through Sergeant Kang. He calls for his soldiers' help, but they were already in cahoots with Sung-woo. Sergeant Kim comes up to him and tells him that they will no longer be slaughtered for the delusional creeps like First Sergeant Kang. Company commander arrives there and he tells them that they are making a mistake and they can't survive in this ruthless world without the army. Company commander starts throwing threats at the soldiers. Meanwhile, First Sergeant Kang got out of the spears, but he finally snapped. Company commander tries to stop him, but he uses a mysterious injection on himself. After taking the injection, his body mass starts increasing. It was a drug that turns humans into uncontrollable werebeasts. Sergeant Kang kills company commander first. He has fully transformed into a tiger-type werebeast. Both Ji Soo-yun and the tiger start advancing toward each other. He does a frontal attack, but Ji Soo-yun manages to dodge it with her supreme sense skill. She jumps at him to attack him with her ignition sword, and she manages to stab one of his paws. But her sword is stuck inside his hand, and he throws her away with a single punch. Sung-woo activates his Cerebus synergy, which gives his minions a lot of buffs if they are fighting against a single enemy. Sung-woo is really pissed and he's determined to finish him off right here. His wolves and bears easily manage to take down the were-tiger with their huge numbers. Meanwhile, on the other side, soldiers report to Battalion Commander that their troops are back. Sergeant Kim arrives there and Battalion Commander Park inquires about their mission. Sergeant Kim reports that they have defeated the boss. Battalion Commander is happy, but he asks about Company Commander and Sergeant Kang. Sergeant Kim replies that they are both dead, and Sung-woo arrives there. He is here to talk about the mission where Sergeant Kang tried to kill him. Sergeant Kim arrives at their main headquarters with Sung-woo and his minions. The soldiers become afraid after seeing the skeletons. Sergeant Kim informs his companions that they are going to be free very soon. Sung-woo rushes inside the building. He throws Lieutenant Park inside their commander's office. The commander is disappointed in Lieutenant Park because he failed to stop the rebellion. Sung-woo thinks this commander is pathetic because he drives his troops to their deaths. Commander informs him that they only survived up to this point because they followed the military rules. Sung-woo tells him that he is pathetic and he forced his troops to fight for him, and they are on edge right now. Commander tells him that on the first day of this apocalypse, they battled hard against the monster and many soldiers sacrificed their lives in the process. They were granted a hidden synergy effect for fighting hard as a group. This synergy effect grants the commanding officer with the commander class. The commander can order anything from his troops, and if they disobey him, they will receive punishment in the form of a restriction on all of their stats. His troops are granted a group quest at 6 AM every day, and they receive a small amount of buff upon the completion of the quest. If a soldier disobeys or leaves the area, he will be branded as a deserter, and all the monsters within the vicinity will start hunting down that soldier. Sung-woo tells him all this time he was sending his soldiers to their deaths. The world right now is just like a survival game, and all humans are just chess pawns on the board of the creator of this game. Sung-woo gets to the point and inquires about why he ordered his troops to kill him. Commander tells him that he is a thorn in his side, and he cannot let rogue groups like his flourish in this world and topple the government. Commander keeps accusing him of many things, but Sung-woo realizes that the commander is not even trying to mince his words to not offend Sung-woo, and maybe the commander thinks he can take care of Sung-woo with his little crossbow. Sung-woo tells him to release the soldiers from his synergy and hand over all of his gold to him. If he does that, Sung-woo will leave this area once Season 1 ends. Commander becomes pissed and he tells Sung-woo that all gold and soldiers belong to the military. Sung-woo sets the record straight and tells him that he is not here to make a deal. Either the commander should hand over everything himself, or Sung-woo will retrieve them after killing him. The commander becomes afraid and he agrees to Sung-woo's conditions. Commander hands over 45,000 gold to Sung-woo, but Sung-woo thinks it's too less. Sung-woo inquires about the werebeast vials from the commander, but he refuses to tell him because it was not part of their deal. Sung-woo blackmails him by saying that he will not leave after the first stage ends. The commander tells him that he bought the vials from the wandering peddlers and they never told him their main location. They also told the commander that powerless and pathetic people buy stuff from the roulette stores. Sungwoo remembers that this same catchphrase was written on the destroyed store wall, and he thinks they are responsible for destroying the store. Sungwoo starts leaving with his minions, but Commander tries to attack him from behind with his crossbow. Another soldier rushes in with the crossbow and he fires at Sungwoo, but he manages to block it with his bone shield. Sungwoo had enough and he throws the bone spear shard at them, which led to their deaths. Sungwoo receives 14,000 gold for killing both of them. A minion tries to go for the commander, but he tells him to stop, or he will detonate a bomb. This bomb is called Abyss Concentrate, and he bought it from the wandering peddlers. Sungwoo becomes happy and asks him to use Abyss Concentrate on him, because it's the same skill Arc Shaman used against him back in the school. The were-tiger smashes through the window and he crushes the commander's hand. Sungwoo tells him to send his regard to the vampire lord in hell, and the were-tiger beheads the commander with a single attack. Sungwoo receives 6,000 gold for killing a level 3 player. He thinks the commander was a pathetic loser because he was still on level 3. Commander had only a little gold left because he spent all of their resources to buy something else. Were-tiger opens up a locker and there are many products inside which the commander bought from the peddlers. The description of the were-beast vials say that they were originally created by an unknown player by boiling a human who just turned into a were-beast. Injecting this vial into the muscles will turn the player into a were-beast for 20 minutes. Meanwhile, on the outside, Ji Soo-yeon is getting healed by Hanho's new healing skill. They are using Hanho's skill instead of potions because they gave them away to the wounded soldiers, and Hanho needs to increase his healing skill level. Hanho is a bit hurt because even Sungwoo's minions look down upon him, but Riley comes up to him and pat him, which gives him some courage. Sungwoo comes out and inquires about Ji Soo-yeon's injuries. She tells him that she is alright and she rushed at the were-tiger because she thought her class can easily match the were-tiger. Sungwoo tells him that it is alright because there are many other monsters she can easily kill with her skills alone. Sungwoo is glad that Hanho learned a healing skill because soon they will need to face the Lich King's undead army, and the priest class is the perfect counter for the undead class. Hanho can even one day beat Sungwoo if he utilizes his class well. Hanho asks about Sungwoo's new cool-looking robe. Sungwoo tells him that he received it from the chest he got after killing the troll. It's a legendary rank coat called Shadow King's robe. It reduces damage by 10%, and it allows the wearer to remain hidden in the shadows until he attacks an enemy or someone uses a detection skill to catch him. Hanho becomes disheartened because he never received any legendary rank item. Sergeant Kim informs Sungwoo that some soldier decided to depart to look for their families while the rest of them are going to Sungwoo's town. There were also some who refused to cooperate to the very end, and they will fend for themselves now. Sungwoo tells them to head back to the town. Sungwoo needs to keep grinding levels because there are only 3 days left until the end of stage 1. Back in the town, everyone is busy grinding levels and raiding dungeons. Meanwhile, Sungwoo leveled up to 12 after defeating an orcs camp, but his level up progress has slowed down because he is only encountering weaker monsters. Sungwoo selected a strength card as his level up option, and his strength increased by 3, and now his total strength is 13. But it's still not enough. He needs to level up to 15 as soon as possible and acquire the Grim Reaper's Scythe. A new notification pops up which informs the players that Chapter 1 of the main story has ended, and the double gold event bonus is also invalid now. Plus, the restriction on travel between different areas has also been lifted. A main story start guide pops up. It congratulates the player for surviving up to Chapter 2. The system further tells them that they will soon find out the purpose of this game, and now the survivors need to build up their strength to face this new world. 3 more warning pop up which tells them that this event will last for 20 days. Raid boss monsters will appear throughout the world which will provide major rewards, and these raid bosses can attack the safety zones as well. The last warning says that signs of angels or demon caps are scheduled for a later update. Players can start looking for the traces of both species which are scattered across the world. Sungwoo realizes that there are 2 important things in this new update. First are the raid bosses, and second are demons or angels, but he has no information about them. Hanho informs Sungwoo about something major in the mobile app. It turns out they published the ranking for the Korean server. Sungwoo is on 3rd place on the whole Korean server. Sungwoo is amazed by the guy on 1st position because he's been killing monsters non-stop, but he's still on level 12. He thinks maybe that guy on rank 1 is a hardcore gamer. Jisoo realizes something strange about the 4th and 5th place players. Judging by their ID names, they both belong to the same group, but they're still in the top 5 together. Hanho tells Sung-woo to check out the online forum. It turns out Taking Place prosecutor of Yeongdong-po wants to meet him, and he made a public post about it. He wants to request an official meeting with Sung-woo. He has the Korea's largest survival community with 500 players working under him. Their goal is to overcome this crisis and reveal the truth behind this game. The prosecutor has heard many good things about Sung-woo, and he wants him to join his guild. The prosecutor will come in person if Sung-woo agrees to meet him. Sung-woo is sure that this prosecutor guy wants something different from him, that he is not showing to others. Now Sung-woo has one more thing to worry about. Meanwhile, on the other side, prosecutor and his guild members are burning some monsters. One of his players informs him that travel restrictions have been lifted, and this is the perfect opportunity to expand their territory. A female hunter stops him because there are raid bosses, demons, and angels outside, and they first need information about them. Prosecutor tells them that their mission is to slay monsters and save people. They need to prevent the annihilation of their civilization. The players become motivated after hearing it. The female player tried to track the #1 player so they can recruit him, but there is no trace of him anywhere. That's why she made that post to recruit Sung-woo, who is on the 3rd place. They need good reputed players like Sung-woo to increase their strength because this world is filled with selfish and corrupt people. The survivors are praising Sung-woo non-stop on the online forums, and he has become more popular than Prosecutor. The prosecutor needs to meet him as fast as possible and make sure that he is not a threat to their future. The female player informs the prosecutor that Sung-woo replied to their post and he's ready to meet the prosecutor. Prosecutor tells his players to get ready to travel to Hwasong Fortress in Suwon. The next morning, Sung-woo tells his companions that he needs to meet prosecutor to share some important information, and he wants to know about tips to level up quickly, or they will be killed by the Lich in the future. Taesong biker groups arrives there, and he informs Sung-woo that they were attacked by some strange people who took his friend Yongsik with them. They were looking for something called Golden Deer, but once they found out Taesong group knows nothing about the Golden Deer, they started attacking them. Ji Soo-yeon thinks that they're just a bunch of outlaws from another area, but soon they will find out about their town once they investigate Yongsik. Sung-woo asks Taesong to lead him to those bandits. Meanwhile, the bandits are beating Yongsik, but he is not giving away any information to them. He knows they will finish him off if he tells them the information about their town. One player is about to kill him, but Sung-woo's party arrives there on time. Bandits ask them the same question about the Golden Deer, but Sung-woo tells him that he has no idea about what they have never heard of anything related to Golden Deer. The bandit is a pervert, so he asks them to hand over Ji Soo-yeon to them. Ji Soo-yeon snaps and she wants to kill him. The bandit rushes toward her. He uses a skill with his weapon, but Ji Soo-yeon dodges it. He keeps swinging his weapon at her, but she easily dodges all of his attacks. Finally, she decides that it is enough, and she cuts one of the arms of the bandit. His henchman throws a fireball at Jisoo, but she easily manages to parry it. Jisoo rushes at them with her sword, and she burns them alive with her skill. 2 more bandits get nailed by Hanho's daggers. One of the bandits took Yongsik hostage, and he is threatening them to back off. Sung-woo appears from behind him, and he finishes him off with his dagger. Some bandits manage to escape in time on their motorbikes. Taesong asks Yongsik if he found out about anything on the Golden Deer from the bandits, and he replies that it gives players some epic items. Soon, Jisoo spots a Golden Deer near them. A hidden quest appears, and now they need to catch the Golden Deer to acquire one of the tickets to a hidden stage. Sung-woo uses his technique right below the Golden Deer, and his zombies start appearing out of it. The Golden Deer managed to escape from them. Sung-woo sends his werewolves after the deer. They chase the deer into an alleyway, but their path seems to be already blocked by a werewolf. The werewolf becomes scared after watching Sung-woo's party, and it starts running away from them. The Golden Deer gets easily crushed by Sung-woo's werewolves. Sung-woo receives a part of the ticket to the hidden stage. But Sung-woo is worried about something because all werewolves instinctively attack their prey while this one used his head and ran away. He is worried about it, but they need to head back to town for their meeting. Meanwhile, back in town, everyone is happy because they are going to see the prosecutor, which is quite famous on the online forum. Sung-woo is quite impressed because prosecutor made it this far using a helicopter without worrying about the wyverns. Sung-woo and the prosecutor meet each other for the first time. The prosecutor introduces himself as Jung Chun-che. Sung-woo notices that people of his town saw the prosecutor for the first time, but they are acting overly charmed by him. They are acting the same way the lesser vampires acted for their vampire lord. Even Hanho's eyes are sparkling after meeting the prosecutor. Sung-woo takes him to his office, and prosecutor tells him that the people of his town are very lively. Prosecutor further elaborates that they are not doing too much well because survivors are flocking in Yeongdeung-po and the total number of people in Yeongdeung-po has exceeded 30,000. Sung-woo thinks that having more people must make his guild stronger, but Prosecutor tells him that is not the case because most of the survivors are children or elderly who cannot go out in the fields to hunt. That is why he needs strong people like Sung-woo to join his guild. He knows Sung-woo is quite capable because he made it to top 5 in the rankings, which is a tough task in itself. When the game started, his parents were killed by the monsters. He somehow made it out alive due to his power. The prosecutor despises this game and he wants to take his revenge on the entity who created it. That is why he wants Sung-woo to join him, because he wants reliable people with good reputation like him. There is also something else which made him personally come to Sung-woo. Prosecutor shows him another prophecy stone and he asks Sung-woo to touch it. After Sung-woo touches it, he is shown another bad ending for the Korean server. This ending shows future glimpse of Yeouido Island. Some roots start sprouting out of the ground and they turn into a big world tree. Its roots start finding and killing players around the area. The Prophecy Stone's notification informs him that this tragedy will occur if they fail to stop the Fallen Ones, who will plant the seed of the world tree in a certain area and cause it to mutate by offering human sacrifices. Prosecutor tells him that they need to work together to stop this tragedy from happening. He further informs him that the world tree has planted its roots on Yeouido Island and there happens to be a boss raid in there. Prosecutor becomes pumped up and he tells Sung-woo that they need to raid the boss as soon as they can. Sung-woo also agrees with him because the fate of their world is at stake. But he hesitates to share the information about the Lich King because that tragedy will only occur if Sung-woo fails to obtain the Grim Reaper's scythe, or maybe Prosecutor will kill him thinking that it will cancel the exclusive quest. Sung-woo agrees to cooperate with him, but he will not join his guild. They will form a temporary alliance and the rewards from the raid will be shared equally among them. They are about to shake on these conditions, but Hanho bursts in the room and he informs them that a group of raiders is heading toward their town. Prosecutor tells him that it is a great opportunity to show off their guild's fighting prowess. The raiders are drawing close by, and Prosecutor already knows about Sung-woo's class, so he tells him about his class. Prosecutor has a Crusader Commander class. He can receive a powerful synergy by appointing Crusaders and forming an order of knights. One of the raider lackeys spots Sung-woo's party and he informs his leader that they killed his men. The leader tells them that he was originally looking for the golden deer, but now he will get a lot of gold and resources after massacring the whole town. Prosecutor can just tell by one glance that these raiders are used to killing people. He orders his Crusaders team to charge at the enemy. The raider leader orders to shoot down the Crusaders with ranged attacks. The ice and fireball skills are about to hit the Crusaders, but Prosecutor forms a shield around them, which manages to soak up all of the range attacks. The leader of the raiders tells his lackeys to engage in close-range combat. One raider tries to bash a Crusader with his iron mace, but he gets chopped in half by him. The Crusaders are successfully managing to keep the raiders at bay. Raiders try to mash 2 of their trucks into the formation of Crusaders, but Prosecutor uses his cross-spear skill which obliterates both trucks in an instant. Sung-woo is impressed because Prosecutor just took out 2 trucks with 1 attack. The raiders are getting pushed back by the Crusaders, but the leader of the bandits threw his axes at them, which dealt massive damage to some of them. The leader recalls his axes to himself, which proves that he is quite powerful, and those axes are not ordinary weapons. The leader tells them these are vortex axes and no armor can block them. Prosecutor calls his weapons mere toys and he gets ready to face the leader of the raiders. The raider leader becomes angry after hearing it and he throws his legendary vortex blades at the prosecutor, which results in a big explosion. After the smoke subsides, the prosecutor is standing above the vortex blades and they have been destroyed by his sword. The bandit leader becomes more angry after losing his legendary rank weapon. The female player under Prosecutor informs Sung-woo that the Prosecutor receives a defense boost based on the number of knights in his party, and he probably has the highest defense in the world. But Sung-woo and Ji Soo-yoon are skeptical about it, because they think Han-ho has the highest defense in the whole world. Prosecutor uses a Crusader's Splendor skill, which heals his units and gives them a buff equal to the amount of damage that he blocked. His knights are buffed and they start rushing at the raiders, but the raider leader is still not done with his schemes. Meanwhile, the townspeople are hiding because of the ongoing raid. Han-ho's father is curious to know how the Liberation Guild looks like. Spearman Kyung-soo is also curious, so both of them go out to take a peek, but the condition of the Crusaders is not looking good. They were all knocked out by what looks like poison gas. The raider leader tells them that he bought his Abyss concentrate from the wandering salesman. On the other hand, Prosecutor wanted to demonstrate a small bit of the fighting power of the Liberation Guild to Sung-woo. Prosecutor starts getting ready to use a secret technique which he wanted to keep a secret, but Sung-woo asks Prosecutor to stand down because he has seen enough, and now it's his turn to show his new power he just got from the Abyss Concentrate. The leader of the raiders throws another bottle of Abyss Concentrate at Sung-woo, but he becomes even more powerful after absorbing the essence of the Abyss Concentrate. Sung-woo realizes that this Abyss Concentrate is a lesser form of the skill Orc Shaman used at him back in the college campus. One of the bandits removes his mask thinking that the poison is defective, but he gets knocked out in an instant. Sung-woo activates Death Response in the midst of the bandits' formation, and bandits get scared because they now know they are up against the third-ranked necromancer from the Korean server. Sung-woo's minions start massacring the bandits. Hanho's father and Kyung-soo are both happy after watching Sung-woo wreaking havoc. Hanho's mom comes up to check on them, which scares them and they give out a loud scream. The bandit leader notices it and tells his underlings to take them hostage. The bandits start rushing at them, but Ji Soo-yeon blocks their way. She starts slashing them with her skill, and the bandit leader realizes that he should not have messed with these people. But he's too late, and he gets stabbed from behind by Sung-woo. Sung-woo receives the other half of the Golden Deer ticket as a reward which completes his quest. Another notification pops up which tells him to get ready, because he will be teleported to a hidden stage where only ticket owners are allowed. Soon, he gets teleported there, and Prosecutor is curious about this gate. He tries to enter it, but he gets stopped by the system because he has no ticket. One of his underlings says that Sung-woo was more powerful than Prosecutor, but Prosecutor stops him from spreading such rumors, and it looks like he's being jealous of something. Prosecutor asks Ji Soo-yeon about the gate Sung-woo just went into, but Jisoo refuses to tell him anything. The Prosecutor was using a passive skill called War Hero Aura on everyone around him till now. This skill creates an aura around the Prosecutor which instills feelings of likability and respect for him. This skill works well on lower level players. It can also affect high level players if they are in a state of anxiety. Ji Soo-yeon is not affected by this skill. On the other hand, dumb Han-ho is completely affected by it, and he is about to tell Prosecutor about the event, but Ji Soo-yeon shuts his mouth. Prosecutor tells them that he wanted to inquire about his gate because he's worried for the safety of Sung-woo. These words put Ji Soo-yeon in a state of anxiety, and she spills the beans that this gate leads to a hidden stage. The Prosecutor thanks her, and he tells her that they don't need to be worried about Sung-woo because he's one of the top-ranking players. He further informs Jisoo that her skills with sword are on another level, and he wants her to be a part of the Liberation Guild, but Jisoo straight out refuses his offer. Hanho is ready to join them, but Jisoo drags him away. Prosecutor is quite impressed because most of the people he met before were easily affected by his skill. On the other side of the gate, Sung-woo arrives at the hidden stage. A notification pops up which tells him that he will receive a special award for clearing the stage. Even if he fails, he will be transported back to his original location, and if he dies, he will still get transported back to the real world. Some gold-colored goblins start surrounding Sung-woo. These goblins are quite cocky, and they think Sung-woo is their prey. Sung-woo summons Righty only, and orders them to get rid of these low-ranked pests. Meanwhile, just outside the gate, Liberation Guild is taking care of their injured members. Normal healing potions were not effective, so they had to use antidotes, which proves that it was a low-ranked debuff curse, but it can't be healed with antidotes. Prosecutor is still wondering why such a powerful curse had no effect on Sung-woo. The glasses guy in Prosecutor Guild has a 3-star scouter skill, and he informs Prosecutor that Sung-woo was buffed by the curse during the fight. The female player tells Prosecutor that she will write the contract for their alliance herself, which will be more beneficial for them. Prosecutor allows her to write the contract but reminds her that she should not do anything which can turn Sung-woo against them. Prosecutor is wondering that everyone who first touched the Prophecy Stone became afraid after witnessing a glimpse of the end of the world, but Sung-woo seems nonchalant about it. He tasks the female player to find out if Sung-woo had come in contact with the Prophecy Stone before. Meanwhile, Sung-woo's minions are wreaking havoc inside the secret dungeon. He resurrects some golden orcs and realizes that these monsters are a bit stronger than the ones in the human world, but it poses no threat to Sung-woo and he is enjoying this hunt. Inside the dungeon, he has no one to protect, so he can go all out without worrying about anything. He is also thinking that he is a one-man army and he has no need for any teammates. His expression starts changing, but he becomes normal after hearing someone call his name. There is no one around, but he thinks he needs to get out of here as soon as possible, or he will lose his mind. He moves further into the dungeon and he finally arrives to a location where he has two options. He can go for a bigger treasure or a smaller one with less danger. Sungwoo is quite confident at this point and he chooses the bigger one. Sungwoo reaches the treasure chest, but he is skeptical because no one tried to stop him. He orders his minions to attack the treasure chest. After getting attacked, the treasure chest turns into a mimic boss monster. Mimic's teeth are very strong, and his bite attack can deal a massive amount of damage. Sungwoo thinks that its mobility must be low because it has no legs or arms. Sungwoo orders his werebears and werewolves to attack it, but the boss monster easily pushes them back, and Sungwoo gets caught up in the impact. Sungwoo starts coughing blood. Mimic becomes more active after smelling the blood, and he starts chasing Sungwoo. At this point, Sungwoo realizes that he really messed up this time and he should not have taken the boss monster lightly. He is also missing his teammates because he is always extra careful when they are around. Mimic is about to chomp Sungwoo, but his minions somehow manage to hold it back. Sungwoo activates death response inside the mouth of the mimic, and his zombies start rushing inside its mouth. Sungwoo gets back and his minions close the mouth of the mimic with their weight. Sungwoo detonates the zombies and even his minions get knocked back by the impact of the explosion. After the smoke subsides, Sungwoo receives a total of 1,434 points for defeating the Mimic and completing A+ ranked mission. The Mimic has no damage on its outer shell, which means it could not be defeated from outside. Sungwoo takes a note of it and he will be extra careful from now on. After getting healed, Sungwoo heads towards the next room. This classroom is a reward room and there are many lockers inside which can be unlocked using the points he just got from defeating the boss. The items inside these lockers are not available in the normal stores, and they can boost experience and stats of a player. Sungwoo buys an oath parchment item which can allow him to make a pledge with another player. Both players can each purpose one condition, and failure to meet the condition will result in death. Sungwoo chooses 3 more C-rank items which includes an upgrade stone, strength upgrade vial, and an experience card. Sungwoo leveled up to level 13 as a reward for completing the hidden stage, and all of his stats are boosted. He also received 150,000 gold. Sungwoo chooses a guaranteed 3-point agility card because if he had enough agility, he could have easily outrun the Mimic. A portal to the real world opens up and Sungwoo heads inside it. Sungwoo and the prosecutor meet up again and Sungwoo tells him that he is sorry for wasting his time. The prosecutor presents him some potions as a gift. The prosecutor wants to announce their alliance to the public, so he suggests that they should post a picture of both of them and their contract on the forum. One of his guild members has a photographer class. He has skills and items that allow him to post picture on the online forum. He further elaborates that people need hope, so they look up to heroes like Sungwoo and Prosecutor. This can make Sungwoo an easy target for other player, but he needs a positive image, so he agrees to it. After that, Prosecutor leaves with his guild. Ji-soo-yeon tells Sungwoo that they need to grind more levels before the raid, and Sungwoo agrees with her. The next morning, a group of goblins and orcs get attracted by a smell. Both groups start charging at each other and Sungwoo detonates the ones who just died, which results in a big explosion. They are hunting with this method and it is quite fast for gaining experience. This item they are using to attract monsters is called rancid wolf meat. It was a failed recipe of Hanho's mom and it smells a lot, so Sungwoo asks him to put it away. Hanho's father set up a sentry post with his new Korean sentry skill that provides a buff to the safety zone. Now Sungwoo has no need to worry about the town's safety. Taesung arrives there with his biker gang. They have an urgent news for Sungwoo. They found a store in Hangneum, but it was already destroyed by someone. Sungwoo thinks that this is turning into a really serious problem. They basically have to hunt or forage for their daily necessities, and there is no way they can attempt things like farming anytime soon. Sungwoo tells him to inform Spearman Kyung-soo to assign guards on every single store they find, or this problem can soon threaten their safety. Sungwoo asks Taesung why his female friends are standing so far away. Taesung informs him that he kicked his friend when she was possessed by the vampire lord, and now they think Sungwoo is a brute who beats women. Taesung leaves with his gang and Sungwoo gets ready to grind more levels. Suddenly, Ji-soo-yeon's skill activates, which informs her of incoming danger. She tells everyone to get ready for action. Suddenly, 2 werewolves rush out from the windows of buildings. Sungwoo's minions try to hold them back. Sungwoo is about to shoot a werewolf, but another werewolf appears behind him, and he tells him not to shoot. Sungwoo becomes amazed after hearing a werewolf talk. The werewolf starts attacking them even after he asks them to not shoot. A werewolf takes hold of Hanho's bag and all 3 of them start eating the rancid wolf meat like crazies. While werewolves are busy eating the meat, they get surrounded by Sungwoo's minions. Sungwoo asks the werewolf to give him a good reason to not shoot this time. 2 werewolves are scared and they ask their leader what they should do. The werewolf leader starts rushing at the location with weakest orcs. He starts killing them and he tells the other werewolves to run away while he buys time for them. Sungwoo shoots 2 arrows which successfully stop him, but his 2 companions manage to get away. Sungwoo informs the werewolf leader that he showed a stunning display of camaraderie, and he asks him why they attacked his party. The werewolf leader informs them that they lost their minds after they smelled the meat Hanho was carrying. That's why they attacked them. Sungwoo inquires about how he came back to his senses. He informs him that they were given a quest to hunt and devour 10 humans. After completing the quest, they came back to their senses. Sungwoo thinks that they must be the ones responsible for destroying the stores, but the werewolf informs him that they are not responsible for it, and they try to avoid humans as much as possible. He further informs him that there is another group that is extremely hostile towards humans, and they are responsible for destroying the stores in order to put players at a disadvantage. He further informs them that there are humans in that group as well. They are called the Mad Scientists, and they are basically the leaders of that group. They are all